Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's May 12th. This will be our chart lesson for today. We had another big bullish day up. We gapped open, tried to close that gap, and the market was just too strong and went higher. Now we've made a measured move up based on the height of this move. Now we may make a measure. We could make an equal move, which would be equal to this overshoot. And if we do that, then we're looking at prices going all the way up here above 6,200. So that's getting back, and actually that's making new highs all over again. So is that possible? Yes, it's very possible. I mean, it didn't seem possible we were going to get to here, and now look, we're not only there, we've surpassed it, and that didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would. So we're definitely extremely overbought now, but this big overshoot down here tighten this up so much it could be skewed a little bit now, and it may work itself wider as it works up. So we'll see what happens. The market seems to be just as strong now as it was bearish earlier. We've taken back most all of this sell-off. Well, actually, it looks like we're very close to testing this breakout area from the sideways stuff. So we might get back in this range, and we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, again, couple of weeks back when we were down in here, you'd have never expected us to be way back up here again, um, working on 5,900, maybe 6,000. So this market's strong. So don't argue with it. Just go with what it gives you, and that's if you want to be successful, you go with what you see, not what you think. So never underestimate the market. But there it is. On the daily, very bullish. Not a great trading day because there just weren't any setups. It was really sad that there weren't more setups, but um, there were a couple, and maybe you caught one of them, maybe you didn't. But hopefully you didn't force any trades. I mean, I can continue to get people sending me trades to look at them, and a lot of times they're manufacturing or forcing trades, and that's because most of them they're not intentionally trying to do it. They just don't have the experience yet, maybe, and but it's a good learning experience. I may go over a couple of those if we have enough time when we get done. But let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart, and I'll show you what it looks like, and um, we'll go through the trades. Okay, here it is at a very high level. We didn't have any news items today, so nothing to really affect the market. And you can see there's a few trades, and there's a bunch of green ones, but we just didn't get any really good setups. Most all of this move came in the overnight, and so 7 o'clock did not occur until we're trending up higher here after the first break of this channel. So all this channel was during the overnight session, and 7 o'clock came as we're trying to retest the highs here, which we didn't at this point. We had to have this big correction before we retested the highs over here. And so, but you can clearly see we had two legs up. We're way away from the EMA. We get a second entry short. Very nice signal bar. I'll mark this green, but I mean, I'm probably going to take this trade most times, I'll be honest with you. You're better off to wait on the lower high, but you may not get one. So I would say unless you're a very good chart reader and consistently profitable, you probably shouldn't take this trade. But you can see here if you draw, usually I don't draw I don't know what happened there. My trend channel's on the retest, but let's just draw it just so we can go through this. And you see the break, move to a new high. And that's a clear second entry short, way away from the EMA. Big bearish bar, very nice signal bar. I mean, this is close to being red. The only reason it's not is because you're better off to wait on the lower high, and you just don't get that. So, unfortunately, you don't get another chance to go short. You get a hidden second entry here, but again, the signal bar doesn't qualify. The lower high is an inside bar. I don't recommend that, even though that is a second entry short. It's another one you might argue for, but just understand that if you went short there on that, you'd have to go to the next high to put your safety stop. So that means it has to go way up here. And I just think that's too much. I think that's taken, inside bars are so unreliable. You just got to be super careful with them. It turns out to be a great move if you took it, but I just don't recommend it because it's not a high probability trade. We only want to take high probability trades. If you just sit tight, eventually you'll get one. And it's just a first entry, first entry all the way. Then we're just working sideways here, really. I don't see any, and there's no reason to go long. And the only short that sets up is this is a first entry. You can't take that. You might say, okay, now we got a chance to get short off this resistance here, but you don't have enough room to scalp out. It ends up going lower, but you see how it bounces first, and it could stop you out. So it's not worth the risk. It ends up going lower. Then we get another second entry here, but again, the signal bar is no good. It's an engulfing bar on top of that. And then finally, we make a triple test down here. Again, I marked this one green. Even though it's a triple test, we're in a downtrend. And we're possibly in a bigger downtrend, which we are. We hadn't been confirmed. This bigger two-tier channel has not been confirmed. So it's risky going long here because we're still in this channel too. This smaller two-tier channel. And so it's really risky going long there. But I marked it as green. Of course, it runs up. And you do get a second entry up here. But again, the signal bar is no good. If you got a good signal bar there, go short. Another thing to consider is we're in this upward channel here. It's possible this is an overshoot maybe. But it looks like it fits on the two-tiered. So I'm hard-pressed to call that an overshoot. That would be the... But even then, the signal bar is not good enough in my opinion. It doesn't close in the bottom one-third. So I just say leave it alone. We get another second entry here, but the signal bar is no good. And you see how it chops sideways. But finally, you get a 1, 2, 3 triple test. I'm not going to lie, it's a huge bar. I mean, it's not as big as what we have been seeing, but for today, it's a pretty big bar, 23 ticks. But, that's the first one I've seen. It looks like a legitimate setup that maybe you could trust it. And even then, we hadn't been pushing through that midline. So it's probably risky too. So it's real close to being green. You can see it runs up, tests the high. That's just a first entry, so you can't go short there. I didn't draw the trend line, but let's just draw it. Just a first entry. And then it's obvious we're kind of chopping sideways. Now, we did get this one. It looked like we were going to get a setup, but then it doesn't break below it. Doesn't break below the next one, but luckily we make a higher low here, and you can go short on this one. It's still congested, but I think you can triple test, nice signal bar. You got to take that. And note here, it does gap over, so you may not could get in it without a limit order or something of that nature. And then it reverses pretty quickly. So if you didn't get in it and you let it go all the way down here, don't let it come back. I think you would have still probably got filled on that, but and got your 4 ticks. But I just don't think it's worth it. You can get burned doing that. And you see it does go higher, and that's like a first entry. So this is a second entry, but again, your signal bar is no good. If this would have been completely green, maybe you enter that on the engulfing bar, but it's not. And then you get a failure here with a hidden second entry. And it's after we confirmed that trend line. So this one you could almost argue to be red, but because it's a failure, it's a little more advanced. So I'm going to mark it green, and the fact that it's a hidden second entry, it's a little more advanced. So I'm marking. It's a great move. So if you recognize what's going on there and you're a profitable trader, maybe you take that trade. So anyway, we get the break here and 2 strong legs down to a new low. Now we didn't quite meet the lows here. You see we came up short, so that's a good sign that we're probably going to get a break up here. So be real careful on this one when you come back to the trend line. Um, Now, this is a second entry here, but I don't recommend taking that. I think you have to wait on the high or low because you see how strong that move down is. Technically, it's not a second entry. The fact that you got a 2-bar matching high makes that a new swing high. So you could treat it like one. But again, I think you're rolling the dice trying to get long down here without waiting on the high or low, which comes here. And then your signal bar is no good. Then you make another higher low here that's higher than this one. And again, no signal bar. So you just have to sit tight. I mean, if your chart looks better than mine, by all means, take that trade. Of course, we're running up. You get a break, first entry, make a new high, first entry, and then we turn down up here. Now, we did get a break and 2 legs up. So maybe and you're way away from the EMA. That's a very good signal bar. You got 3-bar matching high, so you could take that entry right there. I like that one being that far away from the EMA, but it is a little aggressive. You need to wait on the lower high, and you don't get one. And then we're just kind of chopping sideways. You get a little breakout in the move. I don't see anything to go long. This one was tempting to go long, but then it didn't break above it. You don't want to enter above that bar here. Even if you did, it would have worked, but you don't want to do that. And then finally, you get another test inside the range in a fairly bearish bar. I think that one qualifies, and that's a pretty good, quick little range trades or what that is. Really, by here, you should have moved that down another notch too. And then we break out to the low side. That is a second entry long. I didn't measure to see how close to a measured move it was. It's actually a little further than a measured move, so you can see we came back and tested the measured move again before we went higher. So that's a possibility on the second entry. Again, I would wait on the high or low, and you don't get a setup there. Runs back up. Close outside, tries to make a new high, and then we turn down. And again, no setup there. That's just a first entry, and you're just chopping sideways again. Now, we do, you don't get a real chance to go short here. Now, this broke lower and then turned up, so you really couldn't enter this one on the engulfing bar. This one was just a first entry. Then this one's too bullish. Now, you had a fairly bullish bar here, and it broke above it and went higher. But again, you're in a downtrend. Now, you did have a break, and you did make a new low. So that's another one that's a possibility. I'd want to wait on a high or low, and you don't get one. We just continue to chop sideways, and then you get another entry here. And again, I didn't mark it because it's not. Maybe that closes in the upper 1/3. You might could argue that, but and it is a second entry, although we're not looking for second entries here because we're chopping sideways. But it looks a little congested. It's another one that you could argue to be green. If this would have closed really bullish on its high, I'd say maybe go long there for sure. But with the way it's set up, it's not perfect. And then we're just chopping higher here over and over and over, just first entries. Now, there was a second entry here, and we did bounce at the midline the previous time. So it's another one. I didn't mark it, but I thought about it hard, and I might have taken that in real time if I was still trading. You do get a high or low here, and you hadn't made a new high yet. This looks like the reason I didn't mark this coming back is this looks like an overshoot to me. Notice how we're working up that line, and all of a sudden it overshoots. But usually an overshoot will lead to a break, so that's what scares you about that one. But it didn't break even here, so maybe we reevaluate this one. Maybe it's not an overshoot because it does still fit like that. So that's another possibility. So maybe you do take that one. You can't take that one. And then now you get an overshoot for sure up here. And it does reverse here. It does come back and make a new high before it's over. But we sold off first. So, I mean, that's tempting, but you know, you just got to be careful with those. You need a lower high here, and you get one here, but it's not a good setup. I just sit tight. But notice you got a channel working down, you get a close outside, you get a move to a new low. Maybe you take that. There's clearly two legs down there. And they're pretty much two perfect measured legs. So maybe you go long there. The problem is it didn't break above on that bar. It was the next one. So, you know, you could have left your order there, or you could have re-entered on this bar on the high or low. So that's the way I see it. And you might have even argued, hey, maybe you even argue there's a triple test here. 1, 2, 3, and in that case, if you see that as a triple test, which it is, I think you can go long there. And then you get a high or low here that is bouncing back off the support, but it just looks too congested, and we couldn't push through that midline. And you see the next bar didn't break above it anyway. So then you break out and fail, but no setups. We broke out and failed twice. And then we test this low again. I like going long on that one. It takes it a minute, but it takes off. We break out up here. That's just the first entry, and that's the first close outside. Notice how it runs up. Now, there is a high or low here, but you can't go long at the very high. We've already made a high on that retest. And you wouldn't take a reversal here. But we run on up here. We make this new high finally, and it's pretty much your measured move again. So maybe you go short there. I think you need to, well, I already marked it green, but I think you need a lower high, and you get one here, but it doesn't set up. And then you're back in the range here, and I don't think that closes in the lower 1/3 until we finally get a breakout here. Now, we did get a close outside in the new low. We're way away from the EMA. I like that one. Again, I think you have to mark it green because you need a higher low, which we never get. Breaks out the upper side. We don't quite get back to the lows here, so I don't think you want to enter there. It runs up. It does make a lower high here, but it's not a good enough signal bar. But notice there's a new low and then first entry, and then it turns down again. I think you can go short below that one if it breaks below it, just being back in the range, playing the range rules. And it would be a second entry short there, so but I wouldn't trade it for that reason. And then you can't go short right into the support here. You see it fails several times before it finally breaks lower, and we're well into 230 then. So yeah, just not a great trading day. Seen a lot better, but trade what you see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue ones, and there's maybe a couple of green ones that are close to being blue or red. So you should have been able to find you a trade or two, but you had to be patient. And you have to be disciplined, and you just have to wait. So let's go over a couple of trades, a couple of learning opportunities real quick. We're 18 minutes here. We'll see how we'll at least do one, maybe two. Let me go find them. Okay, you see there's a second entry setting up here, and let's get this playing. He's going to try to play this second entry. We're in an uptrend. That's the first break, and you can clearly see this is a clear channel down. Gets a break, move to a new low. And if this bar closes bullish, a break above it would be a second entry long, and that's what he's trying to trade. I think that closes in the upper 1/3, so I think he's okay on his signal bar there. He did get filled. He's moved his stop to one tick below the signal bar. He's already out on this first one, moved to break even. He's trying to get 3 points on his runner here. So far, it looks like he's staying alive here. We'll see if he was able to get his runner or not. I believe he does, if I remember correctly. And there it is. Great trade. The only thing I might suggest on this trade is if you wait. Let's move back here and stop it right there. Only thing I might suggest on this trade is you wait on a higher low. Now, sometimes you won't get one. This is clearly a second entry. Signal bar is pretty good. It's clearly a channel down and a break in new low when we're looking for a retest of the highs here, most likely. So I like this trade. I think he's probably okay if his read is correct. I don't see a whole lot of his chart here, but you can see that he's got his channel working up here. I'm assuming, I'm just basically assuming that his read is correct here. And if it is, this is a good entry. Um, but again, you might wait on the higher low just to be sure, because if you're wrong here, you're trying to pick a bottom kind of. But I think it's pretty clear that you got a break and a new leg down, and that far away, a second entry with a nice signal bar. I think you have to take that trade. So I like this trade, but that's the only things I would say you could improve upon. But let's see if we can find another trade here. Okay, here's another trade here, same trader. I do not like this trade. You can see we're in a range here, and this is the top of the range. Never go long into the top of the range. Let's see how, hopefully it works out for him. Let's watch it and see what happens here. It's an engulfing bar on top of that. No, you can't enter on an engulfing bar there. So let's hope it works out for him. I don't like the entry at all. It's too risky. Most breakouts fail. Doesn't mean he can't get his scalp, but you don't want to risk it. That's the problem. So let's just let it play out and see if he's able to get it here or not. While this is playing out, I'm going to turn my fan on. It's kind of warmed up. It was kind of a chilly morning, and it's warmed up here this afternoon. The sun's finally come out. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work out for him or not. Maybe it does still. I see a lot of questionable, they're not the best entries, but they seem to work a lot. And that's one of the problems that you got to be concerned about. You can't reinforce bad habits. So it's never smart to go long at the highs of a range. And that's what right here in this range, your idea is to get long down here. And you should be thinking, all right, I got to look for a short up here, not a long up here. Again, it may very well work out, but it's not a trade I would take. So he did get out of it. He did get his scalp. So thank goodness for that. Because I believe he's trading live here. Yeah, looking at his account, he's trading live here. I think this is live. Now you can see how prices have struggled to go higher here. They're just seeing stops and running them at this point. Doesn't mean it can't go much higher. Don't get me wrong, but it's just you'd want to let it break out and find some support and then go higher, and then you might be interested in entering. But most of these breakouts like this are going to fail, and so it's usually not wise to trade them. If you keep trading these, you'll have some losses. Doesn't mean they won't win occasionally, but it's just not high probability where you're almost guaranteed to win. He's close to getting a 3. There he was. He got him a 3-point runner on this is 2. But yeah, the problem with this trade is you're in a range and you shouldn't be looking to go long there. You should be looking to go short. And we traded down into this too. So, the odds are you should be looking to get short here, not long. So I don't know what prices ended up doing. It doesn't mean prices can't rocket out here and go straight up. It doesn't mean that. But as far as playing the probabilities, this is low probability. You see right here where it broke out and it failed. You see right here where it broke out, it failed. Here it broke out, it failed. Tried to go again, it failed. So maybe this time it succeeds, but it's not a high probability trade. So, and you do have a little more room to the highs possibly here. You're not quite there, and maybe there's room, but I would probably still, the idea is to get long down here and then start getting ready for shorts up here. So even if it does go much higher, um, it's not really a place where you want to go long. So hopefully that trader learned something there. And hopefully everybody learned something there. So I think there's one more. Let's pause this and we'll look at it. Okay, here's one more. We'll go through one more and then we're going to call it a day here. But this is the second entry short. You're expecting prices to make a new low. So he's not completely off here. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to get that little plus or minus off the chart. But he went short here because it is a second entry, but he went short because of the 2-bar matching highs there. Technically, you can treat that like a new high, but even if you do, here's your swing high, so your safety stop would have to go one tick above that for you to go short there. And that, so if you think that doesn't add too much risk to the trade, maybe you take this second entry. It would have worked, but the problem was he puts his safety stop one tick above the 2-bar matching high. It comes back, stops him out, and then goes lower. There's a reason why we put it at the swing high or the swing low. Notice if you put it above the swing high, they couldn't get to it. It's protected. And the trade would have been successful. So, again, that's a judgment call. I probably would not mark that trade. We're not in a strong enough downtrend here. I mean, in fact, this thing's probably already ending here. So I don't know if I'd take this trade or not. But if you did, your safety stop, this is your signal bar. Your safety stop would have to go one tick above that, not one tick above the 2-bar matching high. And that would have saved you from being stopped out, and you would have had a good trade. So that's my thoughts on that. Maybe, I mean, this trade is, it's probably a 70-30 kind of trade. So it's a possibility. There's a reason you might take this trade. But you have to follow the rules, and the rules say your safety stop always goes one tick above the signal bar or one tick below it, depending on your entry direction, of course. And here he's going short, so it would have to be one tick above your highest bar in the swing, and that's right there. And if he does that, he's got a winner here. You just got to follow the rules. And so it's just a little bit of confusion on whether he should have entered it or not. But like I said, I'll give him this trade. I'd say I'd probably mark it green, but I wouldn't. But you have to put your safety stop where it goes, and if you do, you're successful here on a green trade. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully some more of you learned something. Just remember, the signal bar always makes the swing high or the swing low, so that's going to be these low points on if you're going long, or these high points if you're going short. That's where your safety stop has, and there's a reason. That's more, honestly, where your stop goes is way more important than how big it is. And people get all hung up on how big their stop is when they should be worried about where it's at, not how big it is. And another thing about this turns out to be a triple test here, even though this signal bar would not have qualified because it comes back and broke out first. So, I mean, once this closes, it doesn't qualify. And I think it broke lower first and then broke out the high side. So it still wouldn't qualify, because if this would have broke higher and then turned down, yeah, you're okay to probably go short when it goes past that because it's a fully bearish bar, it looks like. But that's not what happened there. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Hope you had a good day today. It wasn't the greatest trading day. We're going to get days like that. That's just the way it is. I mean, the market's going crazy and going straight up, but it is what it is. So I'm going to wrap this one up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.